What's up, guys? Max here with another episode of the ScuttleButt Show. And today, for the third time on the show, we have a very special guest, Sean Haggerty, Protector Brewery. Sean, what's up?
Hey, Max. Hey, guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So I've been going around trying to talk to people who've been on the show before who are the brick and mortar in business, retail, product businesses that we've had in the ScuttleButt Show and see how you're doing and how the ScuttleButt Show community can help where it's needed with what's going on currently in the world in May 2020 with COVID-19. And you have been somebody I've been following online because you and your team have been really getting after it during this time with stuff like beer delivery, big time social media marketing, distribution. So tell me, how are you doing during this time? How has the transition been into a whole new world of business?
Yeah, good question. So being here in San Diego, California, when the governor of California informed everybody, establishments, mainly bars, restaurants, breweries with tasting rooms, that you have to close down and then you can offer beer to go, food to go only. It sent a big shockwave across every establishment around us. And we thought, man, this is unique. You know, how long is this going to happen for? But immediately what I did was I knew that, okay, this is going to reduce our revenue. So if there's any business owners out there that are brick and mortar, my advice is if you're in California, file with the Employment Development Department, file for a Workshare program. You'll probably get approved for it. It took us about 6 weeks to do so. Also file for an economic injury disaster loan straight on the SBE's website. We actually received that already. And, you get about $1,000 per employee that'll be granted to you that you can use for business operations. There's a few stipulations on that. And of course, the Paycheck Protection Program. We filed ours through Navy Federal Credit Union. We got the approval, got it submitted. Now it's sitting in the Small Business Administration's queue. So we're waiting to get funded with that. But what I've spent probably the last week and probably at least 50, 60 hours reading through hundreds of pages of doctrine and double checking that all these programs work together. And if you file for it, I mean, God, Protector Brewery has paid probably $50,000 to $100,000 in taxes the last few years. So we paid our dues, right? Sales taxes, excise taxes on beer, payroll taxes, all these different taxes, unemployment insurance taxes. And now it's mandated that companies shut down for the public good. And the government's offsetting you with that cash. You just have to apply for it. And there's always a way. So my advice is don't be frustrated by it. Just do it. And then streamline your operations, dig in, and then just try to make money where you can legally and safely. It's been working out really well for us. And then on the other side of that, it's a tremendous opportunity. All these other big companies, I even saw Apple acquired a couple companies in the last few weeks. And most entrepreneurs, my mentors tell me the same thing. It's an awesome opportunity for growth because, we may be leading into a recession, maybe a depression, but it's an awesome opportunity to get a huge leg up because there's another statistic that I saw out there that from a distribution standpoint, these statistics they're probably going to actualize, but they're estimating that between 30 to 35% of all bars and restaurants across America are going to be permanently out of business when this clears. And those are mom and pop shops. Those are competitors. And some of those people may have been running business the right way. Maybe they have not been running business the right way. But my point is there's going to be a massive reset in the marketplace. And this is a huge opportunity to stay in business, take care of your employees, and provide a good product or service to the economy. And when this clears, it'll be very transparent what is really valued in the marketplace.
Yeah. The name of the game, right, so far that I've heard is pivot. And you it's one thing to say you got to pivot. You got to be able to pivot, but you can actually give us real examples. Like how did you pivot when this whole thing kind of kicked off?
Yeah, awesome question. About a year, month is it? Yeah, a year and a half ago, we did a big capital raise. Did we interview on the show? What was the last time we did interview?
It was May 2018.
May 2018. Okay, perfect. So at the end of 2018, after our last show, we did a capital raise because we had a 4-barrel system. There's about 31 gallons of beer in a barrel. So we were producing a 4-barrel system produces eight kegs, full kegs. But we knew that we had to get to a 15-barrel system to make a brewery a sustainable business model. Every book you read, every brewery you talk to, if they've been in it for a while, they say that you have to get to that level to make it a sustainable business. So we did a capital raise. We've been building towards that. And then as we were building towards that, I realized that the only way for us, because we're the only certified organic brewery in San Diego, California, and of course it's very expensive to make beer out here, was to can beer, package beer. We could have done bottles, but cans make more sense for us. And we built our operations over the course of probably 8 months in 2019 towards that goal of distribution, just because the margins from beer for organic, if we were to do kegs, it just wouldn't have, we wouldn't have been in business. It just didn't really make sense for us. But coincidentally, when COVID hit, we were already rolling. 90% of our production was dedicated to canning, and those cans were dedicated to businesses that would resell those. For instance, Whole Foods, Jimbo's, Barron's, even the Navy exchanges out here in San Diego have been one of our biggest supporters.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So pivoting in this scenario, we stopped producing kegs because there's no restaurants or bars open to buy those kegs. And we've also pivoted our means of distributing beer, whether it's to a retail customer or to our distributor. But yeah, any successful company in this scenario is going to pivot and just be innovative. The opportunity's out there. And while everybody else is sitting and, staying in one place, you could be significantly moving the needle for your company right now.
I don't want to make any light. I don't want to make light of anything, but I don't know. I'll just say this. It's going to be like Thanos snapped half of the bars away. And,
I think
and,
so.
And once everything opens back up and people kind of adjust to the change and the coping begins, those who are left will probably really be thriving.
Yeah, there's a lot of validity to that statement because, this brewery, ours, it was idea phase and experimentation phase in 2010. And then really in 2015 and 16, we broke ground, opened up in 2017, and now it's 2020. And I feel like even right now, that's 10 years. And even right now, we're really finding our groove. And there's so many pieces in entrepreneurship to put together. It's astronomical. All the accounting practices that you have to do, all the local codes that you have to adhere to. And even, just it's an organic product, right? That has all of its certifications. It's alcohol that a person's putting inside their body. That has another element to it. And then the final element is it has to be good. And you have to have a team here of employees, and you have to adhere to all the laws surrounding that. And it's really, really, really hard to get it all together. And so a lot of these bars and restaurants, when you start, I think it is the American dream to start something. And if you want to start a restaurant or a bar, that's fantastic. America's economy is built off of that. But to align all the documentation and do it the right way, it requires a tremendous amount of effort. And you got to work harder and smarter and faster than your competitors. And a lot of these bars and restaurants that pop up, I speculate that they're not going to be able to get a PPP loan or an EIDL or put their employees on unemployment because maybe they don't have the paperwork necessary because most of these forms you need to be, they look at 2019 payroll expenses and certain forms, 940s, 941s that you have to file with the IRS. And then also California and every state have their own specific forms that you have to file every pay period. And some of these places, they may not have gotten around to it, although they wanted to. They may just not have the documentation to get these loans. And hence, if you can't put all these puzzle pieces together when you need it most right now, at the end of this, you may fail because you've ran out of money, and it's humbling.
I didn't even think about that. So you're saying along the way for the years that people have been in business, especially I assume the last maybe year or two, I don't think people grasp how difficult it really is to be a business owner. I really don't have a great understanding of it. If you're a business owner, how much falls on your shoulders to make sure your documentation and your adherence to code and your organizational skills and your taxes and your accounting and your books and all of that is maintained extremely well, right? And then you have records,
enough, right?
And then you have records. And if you don't have records and you're not maintaining, you did maybe miss some things and maybe you knew it. And now when you go to, I'm just picturing what this might look like. So you tell me if I'm way off track or if this is close. You go to apply for your federal assistance through the program, and it says all you need to do is provide us this information and records of this information for the last 6 weeks or whatever, and then we'll give you this. And then you're like, oh, I don't have maybe that one thing, and then maybe you can't even proceed on the website because it's like a required field, and so now you're stuck and there's no real way to go backwards on it, and so you're kind of in a pinch. Is that close?
You're spot on with that. I mean, the exact forms. I mean, even just W-2s. Just even your business taxes, and a lot of business owners out there like that own bars and restaurants or any establishment that's affected by this. Everybody wants to be able to provide a good product and a good service to the economy, and it's not like they're intentionally. Nobody's breaking the law, but there are. If you're not educated or read just a simple book or just Google what's required by law in your business to submit all these forms, you're absolutely right. When you go to the government and say, my business is affected, I need some assistance. They'll say, yeah, fill out this form, this form, this form. They're like, well, I don't have these forms. Then they're going to say, well, you haven't really been operating your business lawfully over the past couple of years, and so you may not get that funding. And again, I think it's a very, very difficult thing to do. I mean, if this happened to us, a year ago or a year and a half ago, maybe we wouldn't have had all those documents lined up, because you're at the beginning of a startup. It's really, really difficult to get those. But at the end of the day, the companies that are very squared away, that translates into their product or their service, right? Because you start a company because it's about the consumer, it's about the customer, it's about the economy. And if you really keep that in your focus, then everything else on the back end lines up. And so this reset in the marketplace, maybe some of these companies haven't been operating, the most efficient way for what the market values. And as humbling as it is, I've heard a lot of really good speakers say this and a lot of good entrepreneurs, but is brutally honest. This is the brutal reality of your life. The market doesn't care what you feel. The market doesn't care if you've put everything into this. If you don't provide something that adheres to all your local laws and federal laws and the customer's value, and people say, yes, I'll pay money for that, you're just going to go out of business. And honestly, if people aren't doing that, maybe you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, maybe I'm wrong. And that is where it's uber important to just tell yourself, pivot and adapt. Pivot and adapt. And in this marketplace right now, it's a really good opportunity. Even if you weren't doing it before, it's not like you're going to go out of business if you don't have all these forms. You're not going to get a loan. So now you're going to be more innovative in how to stay alive and survive, right?
Yeah. I think that's it, is taking that hard look at yourself and going, maybe some of this is on my shoulders. Maybe if I do make it out of this, I'll take a lesson away and have have a little more of an organized system afterwards.
Yep. And it's humbling too, because when something doesn't go right, I mean, God, I'd be the biggest hypocrite if I said that, I took everything. I didn't take things personally, or I thought it was somebody else's fault. But at the end of the day, you just got to look and say, okay, this beer needs to be better. I need to be better. I need to put my emotions aside, and I need to put the next 12 hours into making sure my journal entries and my accounting practices are correct, or even just making sure that the firm is lined up that's doing it. Hold people accountable, but most importantly, hold yourself accountable. And it's nobody else's fault out there if you fail, except for you. Given, generally speaking, most of it is you, and some of it's dictated by the market. There's some industries here that are just going to be
like golf.
Like golf. Yeah, exactly.
How the ball lies. Like exactly. The ball don't lie.
You could have a perfect swing right there.
Yeah, and that's it.
An gust of wind comes by.
Hey, Sean, so I have a question for you, and I think this is just sort of, maybe we're changing a little bit of direction here, but maybe for the people who are listening and are thinking, hey, this really is like, because I'm sure you guys sat, like you said, you sat on this idea in 2010. You guys had this idea, and you guys sat on it. 2015, you guys finally took action on it, and I'm sure there's people out there who have been playing things right. They've been saving their money, and maybe they're getting ready to get out, and they've saved one of their reenlistment bonuses, or they just got a nest egg somewhere and they want to be an entrepreneur and a small business owner. And so, obviously from region to region, California, Japan, wherever you are, there's different rules and regulations outside of the federal, that apply to the state, the city, the county, when it comes to being a business owner, that, it just changes from place to place. So I guess my question is, as far as the common denominator, you got your three partners, and so you all have to be on the same page. So you're talking about the practices that has helped you be successful, right? So you're talking about your journaling, you're talking about your books, so let me just ask this question: how often do the four of you get together and just have a meeting, as far as the path forward? Like how often do you guys just do that?
We do it once a week.
Okay, so that's once a week, and you guys are all in the same place. Is it a brick and mortar? Is it a Zoom thing?
Yeah, I think whether it's some guys, because for me, being the founder, the president, and the brewer here, I'm here full time, and then my other partners, they've really vested their equity up to this point, but this has been more of a part-time gig for them anyway. Yeah. But every week, if they can meet here in person, great. Some weeks we don't have it. It's all dictated on what the actual needs are. But if there's anybody out there looking to start a company, from a military side, I think what's awesome is you have to have, and this goes into, because I did a MBA at UCSD, and we looked at organizational strategy, right, from a corporate level, right, civilian side, and then you look at what you have, the skills that you have is from somebody from the military starting a company. There's so many awesome skills that translate, but there should be one that I would highly recommend, especially at the startup stage, and that is a hierarchy in whatever the vision and the goals are. But delegate, have really clear, concise communication between everybody in the team, hear everybody's opinion, be respectful, and then just keep moving forward. And it's just always going to change. And those weekly check-ins have been awesome, because we can look at what we did and what we're going to do, or say, this is what I was supposed to do, but I'm not going to do it because it doesn't make any sense, because the environment changed this week and we're going to move forward as such. That's valuable.
Yeah, that's what because I just kind of, those of us who are veterans, I'm recognizing the organizational skills, right, that are there from organization is organization, right? And then, we grew up in the military. Maybe we didn't come from, a background where you have these, administrative tendencies, where you understand how to balance your books and pay your rent, and you got to learn it, along the way. But here you go, you transition out of the military, you hit the market at the what seems to be the right time. You got a good group of core guys. You seem to be the motor, and then you got these guys who are keeping you. They bring something to the table, like the graphics your buddy who does the graphics, who's his
Mhm.
stuff's coming really into play now, for the labeling, and now that you're doing the marketing, that you're getting away from the storefront, and you still got to stay alive, and you're figuring it out though. And
Mhm.
so I just think that there's something there that I think is being underestimated in the fundamentals of business. And so you talked about going to UCSD, and you talked about getting your MBA there. And so is there so if I were a painter, right,
Mhm.
I would have been taught a common denominator, all my colors, right, primary, secondary colors. But then eventually I'm going to get taught specifically a style, pointillism, or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
So what is it that you think that you're applying outside of, um, and not trying to take any credit away from your own original ideas or your team's ideas, but as far as your approach towards business, what is it like? Is there a name to the way that you're approaching it that's keeping you from sinking at the first sound of a cannonball, coming across your bow? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's as simple as this. If you're going to go out there and you're going to do it, any veterans that are looking to transition, I say do it. Just remember this. Um, Try to find something. It doesn't matter what industry you choose, but keep this in your mind. Be the first, the only, the best, or the cheapest. And if you can apply that, whatever you do, taking your example of being a painter, if you can be the cheapest painter, right? Build your business plan and your model surrounding that, because you're going to find your competitors. If you want to be the best painter in the world, then what you should do is you should move to some of the more richer parts of America, right? And start, dialing it into those customers, because they're going to be willing to pay for that.
Yeah.
If you're going to come up with something and you think if you really do think, and this is where all veterans out there really got to look at themselves in the mirror like I did, look at yourself and saying, like, okay, I'm doing something that is, we're the first and only organic brewery in San Diego, and there is value there. And now we are starting to see that value. But
Yeah.
there was a tremendous amount of, there's a huge barrier to entry for beer, and it costs a lot of money. I mean, we've spent up to date probably uh, $600,000 to get this place up and running, and that's going to take our company from,
Yeah.
we're projecting revenues in the couple $100,000 range last year. Now we're projecting revenues this year, roughly double that, maybe 300,000-400,000, and then next year we're projecting it between 500 and a million, and that that's called investment, whether it's time or capital. But what you have to do is, before you start anything, your idea is probably really not that original. Maybe the practice of it being the cheapest painter is, but there's tons of material out there on how to paint, or be a painter, or be a contractor. And what I highly recommend is, the books are out there. You don't really have to go get a formal education on anything. If you go to the library, it's all free. You just go to Google. The doctrine's out there. So if you can generally wrap your head around other people that have done whatever you're doing, who have built a successful company, whatever that is. I mean, I read books by successful brewers of Sam Callione, Dog Fishhead. You follow, Jim Cook. But that dials me in to make really good quality beer. And then the innovative part of you that's unique to you is, how can I apply this to my niche of organic beer? And that really helps you go from like this wide view of what you want to do into
Yeah.
more of a narrow hyper focus.
Yeah, and then you can break it down day to day, what you're gonna prioritize, what needs to be done versus who can do what. I love it. Yeah.
And I would say this too. This is very important to note. There's 126 hours in the week. And when you're a veteran, you get paid every 2 weeks, right? We all know that. And it's very comfortable. When you get out, don't wait for permission. In the military, it's extremely extremely centralized. It's in its command structure. You don't need permission. Don't break the law, but you don't need permission to do anything. And also, don't wait for anybody else to do it for you, because that's just never going to happen.
Respectfully request to be successful.
Yeah, it's like, you can live in dream world all day long and you can theorize on it, but just go out there and dig that hole. If that hole doesn't work, dig another hole. And then with those 126 hours, you just work like hell. And what'll happen is these things will start to happen around you, because that's what you have control over. You have control over what you can do every single day. And then you may not know what you're doing, but you know why you're putting in the effort to try to figure out the solution. And what will happen is these little innovative breakthroughs will happen that you didn't even know would happen, but they would have never come to your peripheral if you would have not put your effort in that moment. And surprisingly, there's a bit of a law of attraction here. When you're putting effort into something, and by the way, entrepreneurs work for free. The guy Kawasaki says that, and I believe that to be true too. Don't expect to get paid. Do not expect to get paid, because if you're putting your assumptions, which I did, and I fail at this, okay, we're going to start making money here. I can pay myself here. I can pay myself here. You're only going to be defeating yourself mentally, because you're not reaching those objectives, which are based on time and also a process to an outcome. Just focus on the process. Don't worry about the outcome of money. If you keep those 4 principles, be the best, be the only, be the first, or be the cheapest. If you keep that in your mind and keep building it and keep asking for feedback, don't be offended by it. Things are just going to happen. There's going to be investors that come out that say, I believe in you. Yep, I'll invest. Or if you can't find hops that are organic, what will happen is just little things will happen for you. I promise you. But don't kid yourself. It's going to be a ridiculous amount of work to get there.
You know what's funny about listening to that that I found is not funny, haha, but funny, like really smart, really clever. You listed, correct me if I'm wrong, you said first, only, best, or cheapest.
Yep.
Well, you know what's really smart about what you said? If you're the first and the only, you know what else you are? The best. By default,
best, baby.
By default, even if you
like that, that's true.
Even if you sucked, but you don't, or Protector Beer is awesome. It's great. Right.
Silver lining.
Go watch the video.
Yes, it is.
Go watch the video where we visited the brewery, and I got pretty smashed off of about 6 of those 4-ounce tasters that we had.
Yeah, you really
good job.
Yeah, you really. So the last time we came there, so you've actually added to the architecture, the infrastructure there at the brewery. You said to go to 15. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, we increased since you guys have been there, we've increased our capacity by by over 600% since you guys got there.
Whoa.
Roughly.
Is that inside of that building?
Okay.
It's 10 pounds of 10 pounds of Get Some in a 5-pound bag right now.
Yeah.
That's right. I was gonna say they got to be doing double deckers, right?
Yeah, it's the fermenters we got. We just barely squeezed them in there, and surprisingly, we still have to add another 3 of those fermenters. The fermenters that you guys saw, they could hold about 1,000 beers each. Now we have fermenters in here that hold 4,000 beers each.
Oh man,
that's awesome.
Instead of 4, we have.
As you're talking about it, like in my mind, what I'm seeing is like a hamster cage, like somewhere between Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and a hamster cage.
It's pretty much like that right now in here. It's good because again, COVID has we're really thinking like, okay, retail's good, but if we can really crank distribution and expand our region and our territory, and this is the part where you don't really foresee this when you first start the company, or like you don't get those breakthroughs like, oh, this makes more sense. You get that off of mentorship and just, quite honestly, pardon my French, but effing it up every day and then telling yourself that I will not do that again. I will create a system. And being a veteran, everybody here is really good at making SOPs. Make those SOPs, adhere to them, and then keep moving forward.
And keep them simple.
And keep them very simple, right?
Yes.
There's too many things out there that are going to make it complex. You do not have to do that. Just keep it simple. Dive in when it's necessary. And then once you create the system, keep moving.
Well, that's actually really fascinating, because something I was thinking, like, obviously I don't drink, so I don't really have, I don't get to say one way or the other, but like I'm sort of taking the Miyamoto Musashi sort of approach here, right? Like I'm just applying what you're doing to what I do, and I'm doing the analogy back and forth, like oh, okay, so you're a bow staff fighter, like you're awesome, right? So it's cool to sit back and watch you be successful. With that, it's relative speaking, successful compared to everybody else during this time. Like who is really, like, I'll tell you who's successful right now, the face mask makers and the hand sanitize makers. So here's my actual question. Hopefully, I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. And has anybody approached you to make hand sanitizer, and have you considered making it? And is there a way to do it organically? And is that something that you would want to market as an organic thing? And just maybe talk us through some of your ideas and maybe some of the conversations you've had with some of your co-owners and your board members, the other 3 partners that you have. And I'm curious about your response.
Yeah, absolutely. We, there's been a few approaches because when COVID shut us down, we immediately said, okay, like we have to keep our expansion plan because we just raised all this capital and we told all our investors that this is our plan. And I don't think that, COVID should have impeded that. So we said, okay, we're going to expand. And also what we're going to do is we're going to do this a better way. So we've donated a tremendous amount of beer to first responders and then also healthcare officials. But what we did was a company called Rubicon, and what they do is they take and we promoted this in a way, but we donate $1 from every sale of beer from Protector Brewery, whether it's to go or online, towards Team Rubicon. Rubicon's awesome because they take veterans, and if there's a crisis like this pandemic, they'll actually say, hey, can you volunteer to help us build shelters, deliver meals to elderly while everybody's in quarantine? And so we've donated a lot of money towards them. Now that our system has been expanded, what we're going to try to do now is we can actually take some of the beer that is about to go out of code. And what you can do is boil it down to pure alcohol, right? Evaporate all the water out of the solution. We're going to do that depending on how much beer we have after this that goes out of code, that kind of stales. But to go organic, there's a sanitizer that's a mix of peracetic acid and hydrogen peroxide that we're going to start to put into small bottles and include those. When people order beer, we're just going to give them those little bottles. That should happen here in the next couple of weeks because I don't see COVID clearing anytime soon, not in the next month or so.
You know what's so awesome? That is crazy. That's a good question, Van, because I would have never even thought to ask that. And then, Sean, when you were asked that, I didn't know what to expect your answer to be, but that is amazing. And you know what I love about it so much? There's not a better name for hand sanitizer than Protector. There's just not. Prepare to take over the market because it's the greatest name they could possibly be.
Yeah.
We'll just put a little sticker like this on there and then slap it on it'd be a little spray bottle, something like this one right here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Try to include those with it. And of course, everybody's going to be wearing face masks. And I think we're going to order a few. When we actually open here, we have face masks right now. But when we open, there's these face masks that make you look like Sub-Zero or Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Nice. So that's going to be kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey,
totally.
I want to ask you, a big thing that we talked about the other 2 times, and you guys got to go listen to the other 2 episodes that Sean was on to hear his whole story of his Navy career and starting Protector and all that. Amazing stuff. But one thing that came up both times was the team. We always talk about the team. When we were at the brewery, you talked a lot about the team there. How's your team doing? Like personally, is everyone doing okay? All the employees getting through it? Have you lost anybody? Like not their life, but like as a worker, like anybody who anybody who had to leave and go move back to like their hometown or something like that, anything like that?
Yeah. I should say this. I'll preface that question with this statement. For any other veterans out there that are listening that they want to start a company, bad news never gets better with time. And one of the hardest lessons I've learned is, when I was a kid, I came from a bit of a rough home. And so, but I was also the youngest out of 3. And, I always would be like the quote, like from a psychological standpoint, I was always the people pleaser. Right. And then, I stayed in my lane through the military. And then when I got out, I always thought like I knew that we could get here at some point. I didn't know the exact steps to that. But I had this assumption that everybody was going to stay on the path that they thought like I did. But the reality is people have different lives and different experiences. And, it's not right or wrong, right? It's just, everybody has to choose what's best for them and their family. So when we first started this company, there were people that would come in as owners, and then they would say, hey, you know, this is happening with me. I have 2 kids, and then I have to, you know, exit. Or there's been people that come in the company, other veterans, that just, it wasn't the right fit. And they just weren't pulling their weight. So like having brutally honest conversations with people has been a huge learning curve for me. Um, and up to this point, I mean, even last year when we were expanding, we had that huge capital raise. I mean, we raised $419,000 to expand the company to, you know, eventually make it to $500,000 to $1 million a year in sales. And my assumption was, okay, we've mapped that out, but there's been so many pain points through that process that some employees have come and gone. But you just have to look at them and say, yeah, like, I understand that there's been failure points here on my part, and I'll fix that, and I will be better, now that I'm more aware. And that takes a lot of discipline. That takes a lot of honesty within yourself to do. But when this hit, um, because we've, you know, put in a tremendous amount of work to make sure that, our documents are in alignment. And I mean, staying up till midnight or 2 o'clock or 3 a.m. most nights just to figure out like how we can survive, or how we can, you know, utilize unemployment insurance while keeping people employed, and looking at how much money's coming in, how much money's going out in expenses. And I'm really, really, really happy to say that we haven't had to lay anybody off through this process. Our business partners are strong because we just have brutally honest discussions together, and without emotion, and say, you know, I put in this amount of work, you put in this amount of work. Let's try to make this work. From an hourly rate standpoint, you're getting compensated in a startup. It's a very, very difficult thing because everybody's just working for free, and until you don't. And that's what we're building our business towards, which I'm really happy to say after this all clears, we'll be in the clear too. From a just, you know, I'm not going to be rich from this right now. It's more like I'm not going to be working, you know, as if I, you know, had rags on my back and just putting in, you know, hours and hours every day towards it. But that's a necessary byproduct of entrepreneurship. But I'm really happy to say that in this process, our employees, even though, and this is awesome, I highly recommend it to any entrepreneurs out there who have an established business. There's 27 states that have a Workshare program. And even if you reduce your hours for your employees because there's no work to be done because we're closed for retail, you can still file for unemployment insurance, and then the company, like, we pay that, right? So you're able to get that, and all of our employees have been shifted a little bit, but they're going to come out ahead of this because the CARES Act was great. You know, we're going to get a paycheck protection program shuttled into our business, and we have to spend that money towards our employees. But those employees are also eligible for that $600 bump between the end of March and the end of July. If you're on unemployment, you get $600 extra per week. And most people in the restaurant industry or the bar industry are making more right now than they were working 40 hours a week, fully unemployed. But and this is completely, this is completely legal. And it's also, the US government wants employees to stay connected to their employers, not go on full unemployment. And so this benefit extends to this Workshare program. So even though we're going to reduce our hours for our employees, they're going to be able to get that $600 per week stimulus and unemployment and what we pay them, and they're going to be ahead. And then as soon as this clears, they'll be able to jump in 40 hours a week, and then we're going to be off to the races. We've kind of created this metaphorical slingshot with this expansion program. And, you know, we're still working tirelessly because if you talk to any great company out there, or even just any of the greats, they say that this is a tremendous opportunity to keep working hard, because chances are this recession, like the dozen before in the last century, it's going to clear, and then you're going to have the other side. You just have to be, leadership is not anything that's it's not, and it's just a learning process, just by putting in effort every single day, and then just be, you know, just be honest with yourself and keep learning and keep helping people and just be humble through it, because man, whew, business is humbling. And, you know, there could have been, you know, we could have easily been the other side of this. We could have easily failed a long time ago, but
Yeah.
it's the people around you and the decisions that you make out of like what your heart and your gut tell you, and just keep working.
Sean, I have a question for you. Sorry, Max, I didn't mean to cut you off
Good.
there. Actually, go ahead, Max. What did you have?
I was going to say that that really hit with the slingshot, right? Because the way I'm picturing that is you've got a slingshot and you got a yoke here, and hold my hands. You got like a yoke here with a rubber band in between. And this is like, you know, when there's no tension, everything's level, the potential, there's no potential is being built because you haven't put any intention in there. So when to get a slingshot to launch a pebble, you pull back and you pull back and you pull back and you pull back. And now you've built all this potential, and one of two things can happen, which is you can pull back too far, the rubber bands can snap and backfire. But if you do it just right, when you let it go, that pebble will go flying, 100 yards, but which was not possible without the tension, which created the potential energy, And so you can stay level, or you can create that tension, pull back on the slingshot, which is kind of what you're doing right now. It's literally recessing. And then when you let it go, it's going to fire ahead further than you ever were before, which I think is an incredibly powerful metaphor.
Intrinsic. And you guys, I've also noticed the theme is very positive. Like you got no choice, and maybe that's something, maybe it's a team attitude, maybe it's a veteran attitude. I don't know, but we got no choice. We have to stay positive. We have to stay alive. We have to, we need water. We need food. We need fire, man. Like we need each other, and we need to survive. And it's really for our kids, right? So, here I am. I'm past 40. I'm past the halfway point, and I'm looking around, man, and I'm wondering, is this thing gonna clear? And I guess history tells me it does clear. And one thing's for sure, this show must go on, and how we go on, I think, is what we're talking about. And you guys are definitely not. You're making it look easy. Like, hey, I'm not employed right now. Like I'm sitting at home. Like luckily I figured it out to where I can get through it. I can get through it just on my fixed income. If I want anything special, I got to go out and get a job. But right now, I happen to be okay. Like my fixed income, I'm able to pay my bills. I don't carry any credit. My car's paid for. Blah 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 blah. Thank God, right? But not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do that. And so when you're talking about these, you went from talking about $400,000 fundraiser to $600 being a big deal, bump every week for individuals, and that's the truth. And I think that the fact that you understand that and you get it, is it just a testimony to why you guys are successful? The fact that you can conceptualize that and understand it and apply it. And so in talking about applying it, I think it's also important that people understand that when you get these stimulus checks, and if you're a small business owner, if you're an individual who's getting your stimulus, you are getting that to stimulate. Don't be afraid to spend it. Your instinct is going to be put it in the bank because I don't have a job, because I don't have this, I don't have that. But I am here to remind everybody, stimulate, because by stimulating and treating yourself to a night of delivery beer from small companies, right, to take a load off and just to feel normal, they're helping you guys out. And what are you guys doing in return? You're providing, in some cases, potentially something that could save somebody's life, and in other cases, something that can make the blues go away, for a couple of days. So I think that's really awesome, and I thought that the way Max caught your analogy was just perfect. Intrinsic was the word that came to mind. Like it's just you can play with this side of the spider web over here, but no matter what, the other side of the spider web's always going to wiggle, and the show must always go on. And so here we are. We're looking at the silver lining. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. And something else that I caught along the way here, Max, and tell me if you caught this. I was thinking, so Sean's sitting here talking about, how he's living and da 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 da. And I thought, he really is. He's approaching this just like, those bums that look kind of like well put together. Like they don't drink, but they're homeless. They're homeless, but they're never messed up. Like you just see him in North Park walking around. Like you're like, I know he doesn't live anywhere. I know he lives in a cardboard box, but he's always got good sneakers, good shoes. He ain't drunk. Like he's just one of them dudes who's just making it happen. He's hand to mouth. And so that's what I caught when you literally have the same lifestyle as a monk in a cave, man. As a bum under the bush. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're doing a sacrifice. You have a reason why you're doing it. But you're proving people really don't need $600 a week, man. Like if they stop collecting our rent and stop collecting bills, you don't need it. So the fact, that you're concerned about, the people that are working for you, and you want to get them that $600 a week, I think is, great. And that you're encouraging other companies to do this, because that's the secret. We're in it together. Show must go on. And we got to remind each other when we're doing good, and we got to remind each other when we're not. And you guys are doing great. And I just want to remind everybody to spend that money when you get it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The U.S. government, I mean, it's everybody out there, I mean, it's just money. It's something that you're gonna give somebody because you value that restaurant owner's food. You think they're ethical people, like you value those things, and that's how our economy works. I mean, just in this crisis, we signed a hop contract for futures. Uh, because we said we would. We said we'd do it 6 months ago, and just because this hit, because those hop farmers are depending on us to plant those hops and for us to buy those in the future. And so you're making bets like that, and every dollar you spend has an amazing ripple effect all the way back to the farmer. And those people out there need that support.
Yep.
And it works, it works that way, and it also works with our distributors who buy beer from us and sell it to retailers. We keep supplying them. So I couldn't agree with you more on keeping the economy going. And then, one of the last things I'll say too is, as a veteran transitioning, this is what I learned in the SEAL teams. I think that everybody grossly underestimates what their capability is, and it's all a mentality. And more often than not, if you refuse to give up on finding a solution to a problem, 9 times out of 10, you do find that solution. It's a lot of hardship, but you develop an amazing amount of character and resourcefulness and problem solving through that process. And things do not fail unless you let them fail. Now, there are plenty of things to let fail for a good reason, but as long as you understand that, hey, I'm going to put max effort into this, max bloom effort into this, and see what happens.
That was such a Max joke.
And I'm sneaking in there, Max. You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Well, Sean, thank you for giving me some perspective right there with that last comment, because when you talk about, spending money and investing in a farmer who's going to plant the crops, and then those crops will grow, and then you'll get them in the future, and you got to, hedge those bets, and spend your dollars wisely. The perspective that I gained is, well, I guess you kind of know that things don't just happen. Things don't just appear. Everything around us is the result of somebody's really hard work and laying their livelihood on the line for stuff like that, for everything, especially right now more than ever. So everyone, please take a minute to remember those who are working really hard just to make everything happen when things are normal. And now when things are exceptional, it's even more of a commitment and a risk. And thank you for people like you, Sean, who are stimulating not only the lives of people who are drinking Protector beer, but then the farmers and the suppliers and your employees, and the ripple effect is amazing. And it sounds like, I talked to Joe Musselman the other day, and it sounds like one thing that you guys have in spades that he values above anything else is alignment, where your core values and your team and your mission and your product is all in proper alignment, which is amazing. And so Protector Brewery, San Diego's first, only, best organic beer that is now delivering, that is now available for pickup, that is now canned and in stores, in major chains, in many states on the East Coast, right? You said Massachusetts and Virginia or North Carolina, what was it?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can just look at our website. There's a beer locator map on there, and you'll see where we've sold to in the last 60 days. We got Massachusetts. There's going to be one in North Carolina, and then Mississippi. Those are some outliers, but predominantly here in Southern California.
Amazing. Well, hey, congratulations on the continued success. We'll check in with you again soon, I hope. And it'll be a whole new story of what's the next adventure.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for all your time. When you guys come back to San Diego, let me know. I'd be happy to host you guys for a beer or non-alcoholic beverage, whatever your choice is. And I can't wait to catch back up with you guys. Thank you so much.
That sounds great. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Sean. Take care.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
See you later.
All right.